I remember crying out to God saying, I can't walk, I'm on crutches, which as a personal trainer, I couldn't really work. What am I supposed to do? And God gave me the words, get up and walk, right?
Dr. David Jockers is a functional medicine expert who's helped thousands of people heal their gut.
When you heard those words at that time, how did it make you feel?
At the time, I wanted to be a victim, but there's something so liberating about not being a victim.
Host of the top-ranked functional nutrition podcast and author of The Fasting Transformation.
Your gut issue led you to be an expert in gut.
Yeah, so for me, my journey to get healthy was diet change, right? Along with intermittent fasting, which just came intuitively. And then that alone, literally, I got better.
Right. It's not that they're bad. It's just if you're not adapting, they are bad, right?
Yeah.
It's so it's a little confusing.
Well, that's the challenge in our culture today, where everybody's getting their information 30-second clips.
Yeah, I know.
And everybody's trying to do buzzwords, right?
Here with Dr. David Jockers, man, we have a history. Wait till you hear this. I'm telling you, I feel I'm as excited as I'm sure they are. I have to ask the question. I know the story. Well, I know parts of it. I can't wait to dig a little bit deeper, but I want them to hear your pain to purpose story.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that led you into functional nutrition? Some of the life experiences. Let's even go back as a kid. I think start there before your even story. Were things that happened led to this? Anything in your childhood?
Well, 100%. So growing up, my mom actually got really into health. In fact, actually, she trained to become a naturopath. She's a naturopath now. And in the early 90s, the diet that was trendy was the macrobiotic diet. I don't know if you remember that. Lima beans, steamed kale, right?
Yep.
And, it was low fat, low protein, right?
Yeah,
it was
low
whole
fat
food
was the big
based,
craze, yeah.
but it was completely bland.
Yeah.
No salt, you know what I
Right.
mean? And so as a teenager, I rebelled against that. I was like, I'm not going to eat this. And so my older brother, he had acne and he would get into candy. When you're growing up in a holistic household, which is what I was raised in, we never, went to the hospital, never took drugs.
Okay, so I got to stop you there. Remember where you're at. Okay, but I'm always interested in how did your parents get there?
Yeah.
Was your mom and dad both, or just your mom?
Just my mom.
Okay.
So
Was she
my
a
dad
hippie?
was
What the heck?
Yeah, exactly. So my
Yeah.
mom was actually a nurse. So she was a nurse and she saw how I was born. I was a cesarean. She didn't feel like she needed a cesarean, right? And they did the surgery. She saw my younger brother, how he was born. She saw what vaccines did to us. And this is back, I was born in 1981. She just witnessed this. She saw people change, babies, children change after. And she was like, there's something wrong with this.
Oh, wow.
She saw the pregnancies and how, there was kind of a rush to do cesarean births. And rather than, allowing it to go naturally and vaginally. And she just realized there's something wrong with this. And I want to learn something else.
So her paradigm shift was being on the front line.
Yes.
Right? But I would say this, still few people that are on the front lines, they see that.
Yeah.
But why don't they shift? There was
Right.
something in your mother. What was it, do you think?
She's always just been curious, lifelong learner. And so she just realized that there's got to be some better way. So she actually became a midwife and then a massage therapist. And she just kept learning. Like my whole childhood, she was always learning and she became a naturopath.
Yeah.
And so again, she was, this macrobiotic diet. I was rebelling against it. But my older brother had acne and she would link it to the foods he was eating. She's like, he's eating processed sugar. He's eating these Kit Kat bars, right?
Yeah, so you were learning, you were
yeah.
hearing it
And
all.
I was like, well, if that's going to cause acne, I'm not going to, I'm an insecure 13-year-old. I'm like, I'm not eating that. And then I was an athlete growing up. And so she said, well, you got to eat your kale. That's going to give you more energy for, I was a baseball player. You're going to perform better. And so for me, I was a driver. I was an athlete. And so it was like anything that would help me perform better, like I'll eat twice as much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's basically how I learned was food impacts performance. Now, what she teaches, what I teach now is a lot different than what we taught back then. But what I learned was what I put in my body impacts my performance, how I show up each day. And that led me to, and after I graduated high school, about a year or two after that, I became a personal trainer. And I enjoyed fitness, I enjoyed training. And so that was what I thought, was basically taking that to the next level, right? But of course, I learned all the wrong things. As a trainer, I learned you got to eat 6 meals a day. right? Processed protein powders in every meal, basically.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
As a trainer, you barely sleep because, especially when you're 19, 20 years old, because your clients are at 5, 6 a.m. And, for a 19, 20-year-old, you're probably not going to bed at 8 o'clock.
Right. Yeah, probably not.
So I was living a healthier lifestyle than the people I knew, but not living a healthy lifestyle by any means. And that ended up catching up with me in my early 20s. I developed irritable bowel syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went from about 175 pounds, which is basically where I'm at now,
Mm-hmm.
down to about 140 pounds. And I had orthostatic hypotension where I go from sitting to standing and I would feel really dizzy. And I was still trying to work out. I was still trying to eat a lot, but I would have constant gut pain, cramping, bloating, all of that. And I couldn't absorb my nutrients. And I had the blood pressure issues. And so I realized whatever I'm doing is not working. I got to do something different. And that's actually when I came across, several books. Somebody pointed me towards Dr. Mercola's website, and he had a book out that had just come out. It was
And how old were you at this point?
Yeah, so I was 21, and so I went on the no grain diet.
Yeah. Oh, that was one of his books.
Yeah,
The No Grain
he
Diet.
had just came out with this book,
Yeah.
the no grain diet.
Which was, by the way, not bad advice, right? Because grains carried a lot of pesticides.
Yep.
Right. Most grains were processed, right?
Definitely.
So not bad.
Yeah, and I was eating a higher carbohydrate diet, 6,000 calories a day. And so I went on the no grain diet and completely changed my life, right? Completely transformed my life. And that's actually how I found intermittent fasting. Was nobody was talking about fasting. I just noticed I wasn't hungry. Like I just had satiation. It was a high protein diet.
Back then I was talking about fasting. No one heard me.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know you back then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was like, I started studying fasting in the 90s just for my love of innate intelligence and what happens. But no one heard me. No, but it's true. Back then it was, nobody was talking.
Yep. And so I just noticed that I felt better. And, basically some of the chiropractors at my gym, they were the ones that turned me on to drmercola.com. They seemed to really enjoy what they were doing. And I said, you know what? I think I could do that. I can become a chiropractor. And so I went to Life University. I think you went there as well, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was there, when was I there? Early 90s, I guess. But you were on, I was leaving, you were coming type thing, right?
I came in 2004, 2005, that time frame.
Oh, yeah. No, what am I saying? Yeah. So you were after that. When did I? Oh, yeah. So you were in my nutrition classes at Maximize Living, Body by God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
So I was probably dealing with irritable bowel around the time you were dealing with your heavy metal toxicity and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting. Yeah.
And then I moved, when I got to Life University, I was getting better. Right.
Yep.
And I moved in with Isaac. Isaac was my best friend.
I remember, I said this on the thing. I remember you and Isaac in my classes.
Yeah.
Right. And I remember being out to dinner with you because Isaac was probably so aggressive that he was like, let's, got me involved. Right. And, but I remember the questions you asked, and Isaac, and I knew you all were extraordinary. Like I knew that you all were going to be doing things in this space that were going to be extraordinary. Here we are. Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
well, that's a great compliment because you've been a great mentor for me. I've learned so much from you. And, I was reading books. Like when I was at Life University, I realized what I'm learning in school is good vocabulary, but I'm not actually learning how to help people. And so I was reading Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill by Udo Erasmus. I was reading Mercola's books, The Maker's Diet by Jordan Rubin.
Yeah.
Body Ecology Diet. Yeah, exactly. So I was reading all of these books that were teaching real food nutrition, kind of, I guess back then, the term that started coming about was paleo diet. You were using the healing diet, right? And so we started talking about the cellular healing diet, and and it was cutting edge. There was very few people that were teaching this. And you didn't have social media the way you did back then.
I know.
And nobody, I'm going through graduate school with all these people that were going to become doctors, and I'm telling them what I'm doing. Like, hey, I'm on this no grain diet, right? I'm intermittent fasting, right? Exercising, all this kind of stuff. And very few people there were actually living healthy lifestyles.
True.
Yeah.
No, it's true. The one thing that we got from school is the philosophy.
Yeah.
Remove the interference, the body does the healing. But chiropractors at that point just saw that as neurological.
Right.
They didn't see that as the food that they were putting in their mouth. Remove the interference, right?
Absolutely.
So we were kind of like a little unique group within that, little microcosm. I want to go back to the irritable bowel. What was led up to that? Like the symptoms, how did you know? How long did it take you to get diagnosed? Right? And how old were you then? The first symptom?
Yeah, I would say looking back, my whole life, I had GI issues,
Okay.
right? I would struggle at times with constipation,
When you live in your own little world, sometimes you think it's just normal
right?
not to poop for 3 days.
Yeah,
Or whatever
absolutely.
you were doing. Tell me.
Yeah,
okay,
I don't
so
think
what
I
were
had
the-
that issue, but I
Yeah,
would
what were
have
the
times
symptoms?
where I remember my parents saying stuff like, "Yeah, when he goes to the bathroom, he's got to be in there for like 20 minutes," or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would like take me
Uh-huh.
a long time to get things moving.
What are you doing in there?
Yeah,
Honey? Clunk, clunk, clunk.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. And so see, now that I have kids, I'm a little bit more aware of that. Like
Yeah.
I had one of my sons that I noticed that was like, all right, let's make sure we're getting you some of the right supplements. Because I can see those kind of early warning signs,
Yeah.
and of course, my genetics, he's got, some of those genetics. And so he may be at risk
So
there.
did you, okay. So at what age then, your first sign was you were in the bathroom a long time?
Yeah.
Well, I hate to ask this question.
Yeah.
But like,
Sometimes
what was taking
painful-
so long? Okay.
Sometimes
all right,
painful bowel
All right,
movements.
okay, all right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Sometimes painful bowel movements in general. Yeah. And so I struggled more with constipation than diarrhea. Yeah. And so that was an issue.
So that was kind of the first thing that.
Yeah. And then when
what?
I was in high school, I was a pitcher, right? I was a very good pitcher. And my high school coach, and he was a great coach, and he was trying to give me advice that he thought was going to be helpful. And he said, number one, he said, you need to drink a gallon of milk a day, right? I don't know if you got advice like that, but I was always really thin.
Yeah.
So he said, you need to drink a gallon of milk a day. to
Yeah. Well,
bulk
we
up.
were all into that.
And
yeah.
of course, we weren't getting organic milk. It was,
Yeah.
it was
Commercial.
commercial
yeah,
antibiotics in
yeah.
there for sure. And then he said, after you pitch, take ibuprofen. And so
Shoulder lubed up. Right?
you got to keep the inflammation down, right? So, of course, he meant take 2. But, when you're 17, you're like, I'll take 8. Wow. I was taking like 8 a day.
So you just kind of went on your own advice.
Oh,
then?
yeah,
I mean, you
exactly.
thought
I'm
that
like, I'm just going to take 8 a day. And that was the only drug my mom had in the house because my dad is anything but a healthy lifestyle. Like he completely rebelled. Like my mom and dad are very opposite.
Uh-huh.
Right. He kind of has gotten dragged along because he's got family
Yeah.
members now,
By the way, that's very common though. The man
Yes.
gets dragged along.
Yeah.
Women are into the health. Not always, but
Absolutely.
common.
Well, here's the big thing. My dad did not support my mom at all when it came to healthy lifestyle,
Mhm.
but that was something my mom put her foot down for her kids. And now all my brothers and sisters are into natural health.
Oh,
right?
wow.
They're all, they all live a healthier lifestyle than most Americans, some more than others.
Yeah,
right?
men will give in for the kids, but they
Yeah.
don't want to change.
Right.
But they'll-
True.
But they'll say, okay, I give it to the kids. Won't hurt them.
True. But that's
Oh.
also what a determined mother can do. So,
Yeah.
if somebody's listening and you're like, hey, I can't get my spouse to be on board with this. If you put your foot down and you say, my dad knew it was right.
Yeah.
It just wasn't comfortable. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Uh-huh.
And so he was like, all right, whatever. But that made an impact on me for sure. Right. And it made an impact on my brothers and sisters.
Mhm.
And so I credit a lot of that to my mom. But of course, I had to go my own path. And so I was taking ibuprofen.
Which destroyed your
destroys my
liver and
gut.
gut. Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
it's like, holy cow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and then people may not know this, but I mean, being born C-section sets you up for the problem because you
Correct.
don't inherit your mother's good bacteria, her microbiome.
Yep.
Right. We know that now. Then, did we even know that then? I don't even know if we knew.
They didn't even know that then.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one that was born by C-section in my
Okay.
family. And I had the worst gut issues
Okay.
at a young age. So, there you go. And, so I would credit it to bad diet,
Mhm.
to taking the drug, taking the ibuprofen,
Yeah.
high doses.
I mean,
for
how many? I mean,
extended period of
did you
time.
do that for a year? 2
I would do it during the season.
Okay.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Mhm.
like, I would say I did it probably for 2 years, junior and senior year.
It's amazing
In
nobody
season.
said, that's bad. No.
There's a lot of high schoolers, I'm sure, a lot of college athletes that are doing a lot of things. I mean, we had the opioid crisis,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure a lot of athletes were involved in that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because, hey, you notice it improves you and it feels better, right? And
Oh
you're not-
yeah. Right. I mean, it's like, man, they're right. It's
Yeah.
like, that makes amazing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Pitch hard
Right.
again.
And so, yeah,
Yeah.
That
So
was the
that
advice
kind
I
of was
got.
like the perfect storm that happened.
You
right?
got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
And that fell. So, okay.
And then I would say as a personal trainer, when my sleep schedule went,
Oh yeah. That's another story.
yeah, at that point, here I am 20 years old thinking I'm going to work 2 jobs and go to school because I'm 20 and I'm going to bed at midnight, waking up at 5 a.m. Right. And thinking I could actually carry that out. So all of that just built up and,
Did you like, did you realize, like, when you realized you had a gut problem? I'm sure it wasn't diagnosed as irritable bowel at this point, right? But you
Yeah.
knew you had a gut problem.
Yeah.
What were you thinking it was? And were you just thinking, like, what were you attributing it to? Or did you maybe not realize you had a severe problem?
I would say at that period of time in my life, it was more denial, just like,
Yeah.
I'll get over this. I've had issues like this in the past. I'll get over it. I just need to hydrate more. I noticed when I drank more water, things would come out better, right? I just need to hydrate more.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So you're blaming that.
Yeah.
I probably still aren't
It'll be
hydrating more.
fine.
Yeah, exactly. All right. At what point did you get the diagnosis? What point did it get back?
I never actually got a full diagnosis.
Okay,
It's more of a self-diagnosis. I
Okay.
just realized when I noticed I was losing weight, even though I was
yeah.
trying to lift, even though I was trying to eat, I knew something was wrong,
Mhm.
right? I'm having all this pain, bloating, cramping. I mean, there were some days where I had to call into work, right? Because I just had so much uncomfortability. You know what I mean? And so I realized something's wrong.
Was it affecting your energy?
Oh,
Your
100%.
brain work? I mean, how
Yeah.
was it affecting your life?
I mean, 100%. So I was okay enough to do well, like I was never a great student growing up, but once I got into the field, like once I realized I want to learn about the body, like, it really, God gave this. I remember my first anatomy class, I was failing it. And then all of a sudden I remember just crying out in prayer. I had broken ankle at the time. That's another thing. I actually broke my ankle. And I took Vioxx, believe it or not, right? That the podiatrist gave me free samples of Vioxx, which later will get pulled off the market.
Yeah, exactly.
But I remember taking that drug, which didn't help either. But I remember crying out to God saying, like, I can't walk. I'm on crutches, right? Which as a personal trainer, I couldn't really work. I was working at Publix as a cashier at the time, sitting down as well. And so I'm like, okay, and I'm failing my class. What am I supposed to do? And God gave me the words, get up and walk. And it was like this idea of like, don't be a victim. You know what I mean? Like it was very strong in my heart. It was like, stop being a victim and just go where I show you to go, right? Go out and live your life. Do what you need to do, right? Be a light to the world, be full of joy, love, and hope. And don't think like a victim, right?
When you heard those words at that time,
Yeah.
how did it make you feel?
I mean, at the time, I wanted to be a victim, right? But there's something so liberating about not being a victim. It shifted the way that I looked at life. I think so many people get caught in this sort of victim mentality, whether you're dealing with chronic health condition, right? A financial condition, relational issue, right? Whatever it is, it's so easy to want to be a victim, but that literally paralyzes you, takes all your energy. The fastest way to depression is thinking like a victim.
Yeah.
And so God said, don't think like that. And
So literally you heard those words.
Yes.
Boom.
Yep.
And then did you immediately, okay?
yeah, so it wasn't like I got up and like my ankle was healed. I didn't have
Right. But you walked through the pain.
Yeah. And so it was more of like, stop complaining, like focus on healing, focus on being in gratitude, focus on being a blessing to the other people around you. And that's what I tried to focus my energy on. And then God just started lining things up. I found that book. I ended up committing to going to Life University. That was scary.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're only going to get, 6-figure debt, right? And
yeah, it was
another
scary
4
for me
years of
too.
college.
I
right?
remember that decision. Yeah.
You're like, hey, I'm about to graduate with my degree.
Yeah.
And go out and work, make a living. And now, nope, 4 more years or whatever of school and, $150,000 worth of debt.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Scary.
Yeah,
I
it's
remember, at school going, I'm out of money. I'm going home. I was telling my roommate, and then, literally a knock on the door, guy selling the newspaper. I'm like, wrong door, man. I just told him I'm done. I'm bankrupt. Close the door. And I'm like, gosh, man, I'm like, I can't believe, God is allowing me to go through. I sit down in the chair like you. It's like, I just sent you the answer. Boom. I get up. The chair goes flying back. I run after the guy. Hey, man. I call him back. He thinks he's going to sell a newspaper. I'm like, this job,
Right, you need a job.
And so I call down there, and the guy's like, yeah, the crew's all full. I'm like, no, listen, you have to give me a chance, man. Just one. If I'm not your number one sales guy in 2 weeks, fire me. He's like, okay, come meet me. He sensed my resolve, my panic, who knows.
Yep.
But anyways, yeah, it was scary going to school, right? All the debt and everything, but here we are.
So really God taught me how to think.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Ah,
I'm
God,
thankful for
so
my
true.
parents,
Yeah.
but my parents never really taught me the difference between powerful thinking and powerless thinking. That was taught to me by God. And it was through that experience.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And so then from there, I went to Life University, met Isaac, was the
Mhm.
first person I met. God lined all of that up. I remember, I didn't know where I was going to live when I was about to start at
Dr.
Life.
Isaac Jones, he's running big seminars now and
Yep.
doing great things. Yeah.
Yep. And Isaac's who connected me with you
Yeah.
as well. And
Mhm.
so anyways, Isaac had just moved down from Canada literally the weekend before I moved. And on Monday, God told me in a dream, you need to live on campus, right? I was going to live off campus, and then that fell through. And I was moving on a Thursday. So on Monday, Sunday night, I had this dream, called up the, it was the on campus living, called them up on a Monday, and Isaac had just come down spontaneous. Isaac's a very spontaneous person. So he and his dad had driven him down the weekend before, and they didn't even have a place. And the Life University gave him like this apartment that needed to be cleaned. So he cleaned it up, and then he needed to find roommates. And I had that dream.
Huh.
The next day I call up and they're like, well, everything's booked except this one place. This guy just came down from Canada and he's looking for roommates. So anyways, he ends up calling me, right? And I moved down on Thursday. He's the first person I meet, and we end up living together, best friends to this day. He was the best man in my wedding. Lives 10 minutes from me. We raised our families together.
Love Isaac.
Connected me with you.
Isaac literally tracked me down in the bathroom and said, will you mentor me? I mean, it's like, and my answer was, nah, I don't have time. And he kept at it. Literally, as I could tell he wasn't going away, as I'm standing at the urinal, and he's not going away. He's persistent. He literally was taking me down like 5 minutes, 1 minute a month.
I remember him telling me that.
Yeah, finally to the point where I said yes. But look at how lives change, right?
Yeah.
So did you guys end up in a moldy hotel? Hotel. A moldy apartment?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because that made Isaac sick. And did it re-trigger your IBS at all?
Fortunately, it didn't.
Okay.
I think my body's better at detoxifying mold. So fortunately, it didn't. I mean, it certainly wasn't healthy. But, But that wasn't the trigger for me.
Yeah. It's funny, we all have our weakness, our kryptonite, so to speak. So pain to purpose. I mean, that's your story.
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't go through that, you would never have the purpose that you do today. Matter of fact, saying that, do you think you'd ever be doing what you're doing today, helping the amount of people that you're helping, if you didn't go through the IBS?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would have continued to do what I was doing. Sometimes you need a wake-up call, right?
Yeah, I know.
I think I was that kind of kid. I needed that wake-up call.
Isn't it amazing, though? Like, okay, so you had the pain to purpose situation, but God has to change our thinking oftentimes, right? I had that too. I can't tell you how many times God had to slap me, a similar situation that I can still anchor back into as an adult. One of the things when I was sick, it was easier to feel sorry for myself and be angry even. And I was literally trying to push my wife away because I just, was in that bad mindset. God spoke to her heart in her prayer, and she probably prayed for me and the family many times that not only is he going to get me well, but I'm going to take a message to the world. When she would tell me that, I'd get so mad because I would say, I can't even help myself. Here I sit today, right? But the point is that God literally has to change the way we think. I was so stuck in feeling sorry for myself at times.
Yeah, and I would say in your case, being a doctor and being counted on by people to get well, it's even more humbling.
Yeah.
I
was embarrassed.
I
was embarrassed.
I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, I hid it from my family. I hid it from a lot of people. Obviously, the people that are really close saw something wasn't right. I mean, meeting my family, but it was hard. But pain to purpose.
Exactly. Yeah, this is more minor, but my wife was getting recurrent sinus infections that would come like every 3 months. They got so bad to where she would need antibiotics. She had an eardrum rupture, and I'm like, okay, we got to figure this out. So good diet, good supplements, all this stuff. She had breast implants. We got those removed, detoxed her, had her in hyperbaric oxygen, sauna, all this stuff, still getting sinus infections. We had, biological dentists look at her teeth. Everything looked good. But we had 2 biological dentists look at it. But I was still, just something inside of me was like, those wisdom teeth. She had her wisdom teeth removed. And I was like, we need to have somebody else look at it. we sent him out to Dr. Nunnally. You know Stuart Nunnally?
Yeah, in Texas.
Yep. And he said there's definitely 3 infections, probably 4, but I won't know unless I go in.
Mhm.
So we flew out there. Actually, this was last summer, right? She had 4 infections in where cavitations, where her wisdom teeth
Can't
were.
tell you.
One that was right up into the sinus.
Oh, yeah.
Had that removed, hasn't had a sinus infection since.
I can't tell you how many people that have autoimmune, just chronic weird things that aren't going away, gut problems that won't go away, anxiety, sleep problems, aches and pains. We look for hidden infections in the mouth, and lo and behold, there it is.
And not all biological dentists are trained in
No.
that.
Matter of fact, more aren't
Right.
than are, right? But we're talking biological dentists.
Yeah.
We're talking about dentists who
They're
do
holistic
health,
already,
they're
yeah.
holistic. But the cavitation where a wisdom tooth is pulled out, more often than not, that it heals over, no pain, but yet it's infection that's trashing your immune system in that case. My wife had a similar thing. She had a tooth that was pulled out years ago and it left a cavitation. It was a wisdom tooth, and it was up. The cavitation went up into her sinus, and she just had chronic sinus, chronic sinus. And lo and
That's
behold,
exactly what happened.
exactly,
Yep.
it was that cavitation. Now that often doesn't happen, especially if it's on the bottom.
Yeah.
But it will still lower immunity, create
Right.
hyperimmunity. But yeah, when she got that out, it transformed her. Matter of fact, she walked out of the chair and she was like, "I swear my hip pain went away."
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen a
Right.
lot. Yeah.
Right. If that's a main driver, I mean, that's just bringing down inflammation so much.
Your gut issue led you to be an expert in gut. What are you seeing today? Because it's way worse. I mean, when I was sick, way back in early 2000s, when you were sick, I mean, look at it today. Let's start with causative factors of why we're seeing this massive escalation in IBS.
Yep.
Crohn's, celiac, just unfixable gut bloating. Most people aren't diagnosed, but they have bloating after meals. They're sensitive to all these different foods. What's going on?
Yeah. So for me, my journey to get healthy was diet change, right? Along with intermittent fasting, which just came intuitively. And then that alone, like literally, I got better, right? That alone, and then just better, healthier lifestyle in general. I was getting out more in the sun more, sleeping more, things like that. That alone healed me. I didn't take any supplements, right? And I was able to get better. And today's day and age, I mean, you and I both know, it's like, I wish it was that
People
easy.
change their diet. People are eating perfect. They're taking probiotics. And they're still not better.
Exactly.
What the heck's going on?
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, we're just bombarded by toxins. Those toxins are damaging our mitochondria, and the intestinal cells, I mean, they're replaced every 3 to 5 days. But most of the, if we're not replacing those mitochondria, if we're not undergoing autophagy, mitophagy, and breaking down those damaged mitochondria in there and regenerating new mitochondria, then those intestinal cells are very fragile, right? So even as they're being replaced, they're extremely fragile. And then anytime we eat, that's mechanical stress on the gut, and they're just breaking down. We need really strong, stress-resilient intestinal cells, and that depends on strong, stress-resilient mitochondria.
Yeah.
And that's really, the key. In fact, I mean, new research is saying that the mitochondria regulate the oxygen levels in the gut.
Yeah.
And the kinds of bacteria that are associated with healthy metabolic, just healthy metabolism, fat burning, lower rates of autoimmunity and chronic inflammation are these obligate anaerobic bacteria that need a very low oxygen environment, right? Akkermansia, mucinophilia, fecal bacterium praesitzii, and they live deep in the mucosa. And so when the mitochondria is working well, it's pulling oxygen out of the intestinal lumen so it can be used for energy, and that allows for this low oxygen environment. And when the mitochondria is not working well, it's not producing energy through oxidative phosphorylation. So the oxygen stays elevated in the intestines, kills off the good bacteria, and now the bad bacteria, Klebsiella, Siderobacter, H. pylori, all of these aerobic bacteria.
Gives them the right environment.
It's the right environment for them to thrive. And then they're histamine producing, and they produce endotoxins that drive up inflammation in the body. And so the mitochondria are becoming damaged and not being replaced, not being properly repaired and healed. And so that's going to come down to all the things you talk about. Toxins, right, are a huge driver. Microplastics, heavy metals, parabens, right, all of the different, forever chemicals that we're being exposed to. And then, of course, dietary factors as well associated with that, or just poor diet hygiene too, right? Like just even going 12 to 14 hours, between your last meal and your first meal gives your gut some time to heal and your liver a chance.
Yeah. And you said autophagy, mitophagy. What that means is the body gets rid of the bad and creates new, right?
That's right.
Gets rid of the bad mitochondria. This work, right? The mitochondria is not just about making energy, to your point with the oxygen, right? But it also is the cellular surveillance, right? It's like, it's looking at like, okay, this is danger. And once it gets in a danger mode, literally it starts to, put ATP out of the cell and, send all these inflammatory signals out. And you're meant to go through that briefly if you have a sickness, but people are stuck in this cellular danger thing and their mitochondria toxins affect
right. They're in a wartime physiology.
Yeah,
so we could be in a
physiology.
peacetime physiology or a wartime physiology, and the cells are stuck
Explain
in
the
wartime.
difference.
Yeah, and what you're talking about is called the cell danger response, right? And so basically, when the cell feels as though, right, when it senses that the environment is not hospitable, right? Too much toxins, too much stress, too much pathogens, then it hunkers down. It goes into this wartime physiology. In wartime physiology, it might have, so the mitochondria use oxygen to produce energy, and they can produce an abundant amount of energy if it goes through the electron transport system. But even in a high oxygen environment, like a good oxygen environment for the mitochondria, when it's in a wartime physiology, it won't produce energy through the electron transport system, only through glycolysis, right? And with glycolysis, you're producing a whole lot of metabolic byproducts that are,
in other words, using glucose as opposed to oxygen.
Right, not fat
So
burning.
then it uses glucose, which creates a lot of other more toxic byproducts, if you will. Make it simple here.
Yeah, basically, for the layperson, they're stuck in sugar burning, right?
Yeah.
Even when the environment says, hey, you should burn fat,
like
at night while we're sleeping, we should be burning fat. But they're stuck in this sugar burning
I wanted
mode.
to have that, Mark Sesson, I had an interview with him, and we were talking about metabolic flexibility, being stuck as a sugar burner versus the ability to burn fat. I wanted to go the toxic route, but the conversation was so dietary, and I thought he was giving great insight on how to get there dietarily to be more metabolically flexible. But what I wanted to say is, oh my gosh, toxins keep people stuck as sugar burners with the inability to burn fat because of the damage in the mitochondria. So a lot of people are stuck as sugar burners for what you're saying.
Even when they make dietary changes.
Yes.
They can still be stuck.
They're trying to go like keto or low carb, and they have no energy because their mitochondria can't use fat. So they don't transition. And anyway, so I'm glad we're having this conversation.
Because those mitochondria are stuck in wartime physiology.
Exactly.
And until you get that toxic burden or the pathogen burden, which pretty much those things go together. As toxins go up, pathogens go up. Right? And actually your body getting rid of pathogens is one way it gets rid of toxins. And so basically as that burden goes up, now, or as it goes down, I should say, now it switches to peacetime physiology. But if it goes back up.
Makes energy.
Yeah.
Everything's working good.
You got it. So there's a certain threshold.
And
you got to keep that toxic burden, the pathogen burden, and the stress burden, the overall allostatic load underneath that threshold. And that allows you to be in that peacetime physiology.
I hope people hear that, because a lot of people are chasing their hormones, their cortisol, but they're missing this. Right? Meaning, well, wait a minute. Why is your cortisol elevated all the time? Why are you in the sympathetic? Because you're in wartime mode. Well, that's a mitochondria problem, and that's where you make energy, and your mitochondria do this surveillance to make sure that you're not stressed. Physical, chemical, or emotional stress, typically in a perfect storm, puts you in the wartime zone. That's a great analogy, bro. Yeah, that's awesome. And you're seeing that linked to all these gut problems, like many of these gut problems.
Absolutely.
In the mitochondria, like I said, even affecting these bad bacteria that are allowed to exist. That's a mitochondria issue. Who would think?
So like probiotics can have a great effect. A lot of people have gotten helpful results with probiotics, but it's downstream. It's not actually impacting the mitochondria. Right? And so what the mitochondria need are really postbiotic compounds, right? And so a good healthy microbiome is going to produce postbiotics, things like urolithin A, butyric acid, short chain fatty acids, butyrate. And that's going to get into that mitochondria, trigger mitophagy, the breakdown of the old damaged mitochondria, and the formation of new healthy mitochondria. I call that mitochondrial biogenesis. So creating a stronger, more stress resilient mitochondria and ultimately more stress resilient cell.
We're having a high level conversation here, right? And I don't want to lose our listeners because this is really important. If we break that down and you would say, okay, how do we make our mitochondria better? Because that affects your energy, that affects your staying lean, all these things that people want.
Yeah.
It affects your ability for your brain to work so you don't have brain fog, but it does affect the health of the gut.
Yep.
What would you say these three things do this?
Yeah. So the cool thing is intermittent fasting, right? And really the things that I talked about. So when I went on the no grain
because
diet,
fasting, you get rid of the bad mitochondria.
That's right.
And you make new, better ones.
absolutely.
I agree.
Yep. When I went on the no grain diet, I really went on a high protein diet. Okay. And I also was trying to get Dr. Mercola, who I was reading at the time, was the first person. You were the second person that was saying, hey, we need to do grass-fed, animal products, right? And so we're getting less toxins there, we're getting more nutrients. And so I was on a high protein diet. Protein stabilizes your blood sugar, which then allows you to not have the cravings, the constant blood sugar roller coaster. You have a constant, consistent fuel for the cells of your body. And that allows you to go longer between meals. And what's cool is that, microbiome researchers for years, they've looked at, hey, how do we reshape the microbiome, right? And what is the ideal microbiome? And they always talk about diversity, right? The amount of different types of species being a really beneficial effect.
Bacteria, fungi, the more diversity, the better.
That's right. And they always said, you got to eat a lot of prebiotics, lots of fruits and vegetables in order to get there. And that is one way. That is one way to get there. Okay, but what's interesting is they found that intermittent fasting actually improves the diversity. And how does that, you're not even feeding them, right? Like, how does that work? Well, really what it does, it helps prune back what we call the primary feeders. These are more the aerobic or facultative anaerobes, right? They can live in an oxygen-based environment. They're the primary feeders. They live on top of the mucosa and they're going to eat first, right? And if we're constantly feeding them, they drown out, they create more oxygen and they drown out nutrient sites for the secondary feeders. And they actually lower the amount of diversity in the gut. But when we take breaks from meals and we do some sort of intermittent fasting, that actually allows for the secondary feeders to really proliferate. And those secondary feeders, like, for example, Akkermansia, it breaks down polyphenols that we're taking from our diet and creates things like urolithin A, which is this really profound postbiotic that gets in and triggers mitophagy and triggers, mitochondrial healing. And so we get this dramatic benefit from doing that. And I always look at it like this. In my front yard, I'm blessed to have an apple tree and a blueberry bush right next to each other.
Really?
Right next to it. This is a real example. So apple tree and a blueberry bush. And the apple tree grows like crazy. And every year we've got to pay a guy, because my wife doesn't trust me to do it, to go in and prune the apple tree and actually limit the amount of branches and limit the amount of potential fruit coming from the apple tree so that the sun is able to get on the blueberry bush. So we get blueberries. If we don't do that, we don't get blueberries.
So this is the analogy of the first feeders and the second feeders.
Exactly. We've got to trim back the primary feeders in order to allow the secondary feeders to flourish and create really a biodiverse.
And just going longer spells without food, intermittent fasting
does that.
It does that, right? Well, let me tell you something. My principle of diet variation, diet change also helps diversity of the microbiome. Yeah. Longer fasts, oftentimes people need, which your body gets like to the same point, right? It gets your body goes into massive autophagy and mitophagy, gets rid of the bad cells, and obviously has an effect on the microbiome too. So we just gave you some principles, any others. So fasting, go longer period, even if it's like you said, even push breakfast out, maybe skip dinner, whatever. There's ways to eat 2 meals and lengthen your time of eating, maybe 15 hours or 18 or 20.
And the key with that I found is high protein. So when you eat 30 to 50 or more grams of protein in a meal, that's going to create satiation. You're going to be satisfied and you're not going to be thinking about food. Like, I haven't eaten since dinner last night. I don't know what time it is now, 3:30 or something like that when we're doing this. I don't feel hungry at all, right? I feel really mentally
you're using
clear.
your fat as energy.
Absolutely.
And your cells, bad cells.
Yeah, I'm burning the little visceral fat that I have. I'm burning that right now as a fuel source.
Yeah, metabolically flexible, as we say. So, okay, that's the fasting strategies, just pushing out, meals, etc. What else?
Yeah, so fast, then
protein. Protein.
Yeah, protein in the diet, and then really good sleep. Really good sleep is so critical because when you sleep, you're producing melatonin, right? And melatonin is your sleep hormone. But melatonin, and I'm going to tie in sleep and light exposure, right? And kind of put that in as the third thing, because proper light exposure, getting out in the sun, right? Early in the day and really throughout the day as much as you can, that is going to actually stimulate that. You're going to get infrared exposure. And infrared is part of the visible spectrum you can't see, right? But you're being exposed every time you're out in the sun. And so that actually triggers melatonin production in the mitochondria. And so we think about melatonin as our sleep hormone, and it is.
There's more.
But that's only 5% of melatonin.
Yeah.
95% is in our mitochondria, and it cleans up the mitochondria. It's the most powerful antioxidant, cleaning up all the free radicals and oxidative stress in the mitochondria.
Which is going to help the gut, as we pointed out. If you can
Absolutely.
improve your mitochondria, you're going to help the gut.
Absolutely. So how do we optimize melatonin production? We do it through good sleep, but also good light exposure throughout the day. So getting out, getting as much real natural sunlight as possible. And obviously everybody's going to have a different tolerance for that. Okay. If you burn easily, get out in the morning, earlier in the day or in the evening, you'll get a lot of red and infrared there. UV light has great benefits as well. I try to get out all throughout the day as much as I can. I know you do as well. You're big on sun. You're getting that melatonin production, and then really try to protect your light exposure at night. So like in my family, we put our kids to bed, usually 8:30. We have all the lights dimmed. And then my wife and I wear blue light blocking glasses.
We have special bulbs. We never use the overhead. We have all the lamps, right? But I mean, people should do this. It's not hard to do this.
Yeah, no, it's not. It makes a huge difference. It really does. As somebody that was a big trigger for me. I not only when I became a personal trainer was I not sleeping much, but I never slept well growing up, right? Like I never really felt like I was sleeping well. I'm very light sensitive. And so I wear an eye mask at night, even though my room is black, right? It's dark. I still wear an eye mask and I notice better quality sleep, and I protect my light exposure at night. I wear blue light blocking glasses, have all the lights dimmed,
because you
red
notice
light bulbs.
a massive difference.
Big difference.
Yeah.
Some people are noise sensitive. My wife is. Like she's got to have like the noise machine on. She'll have earplugs in, any noise, right? For me, it's light. I'm light sensitive. And the benefit of that is I wake up, like when the sun comes up, I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm up. Even if I have my eye mask.
But there's a lot of debate on this. I can't wait to get your take on it. There's a lot of debate on whether you sleep in total blackness or the ancestral model is, of course you don't want outside light, man-made light, right? But, if the light of the moon, so to speak, right? The light of the night is what our ancestors typically were exposed to at night. And, there's frequencies there that actually help your sleep. So do you go complete black, or do you let some of the natural light in? If you're in a city, you better black out. But
I have some of the natural light. Yeah,
okay.
I live in an area where it's more in the country, and so I have like moonlight and stuff like that.
Yeah,
that's
so you
still
let that
making
in.
its way in. Like
yeah,
and that's kind of how I know when it's daytime.
Yeah,
I think if you do have it completely dark, I could see somebody maybe as a shift worker doing that, which you and I both know shift work is not healthy. You have to sleep during the day; it's not good. But for me, I like waking up with the sun.
Yeah, me too.
I like that trigger.
I like it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've done complete dark, and it feels like I lose the rhythm a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, so there's an argument for that, obviously, but definitely you don't want all of the artificial light. If you live in the city and you're getting a lot of artificial city light in, that's totally different.
That blocks that melatonin.
Yeah, you better put some thick shades on.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, you gave a lot of great advice. I mean, obviously the fasting strategies, the protein. How much protein? We didn't answer that.
Yeah,
I get that question all the time. People, how much protein?
I would say 30 to 50 grams of protein, but it really depends on your activity level too. Per meal. See, we used to think the maximum, you heard this, the maximum you could absorb is 30 grams at a meal. That's what they used to say. And now we know that that is not true. Okay. As long as, you're metabolically healthy, you're going to absorb, as much amino acids as you need.
Well, it's like the tribe who gets the kill.
Yeah.
They're going over 30 grams.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're feasting.
I mean, I typically eat 2 meals a day and sometimes 1 meal and sometimes 3 meals. I do some of the diet variation.
I'm the same.
Yeah. And so like today is a 1 meal day, right? And I'll probably eat 150 grams of protein easy, right? In that one meal.
Yeah, exactly.
And then if I'm eating 2 meals, sometimes it's like 100 grams in a meal, Now for me, I lift weights 6 days a week. So to recover, I need the protein and I have, a good appetite. And here's a great thing too. When you're metabolically flexible and you're doing this right, I don't know about you, but I really don't get hungry until I start eating. When I start eating,
No, it's true.
then
Of
my
boom. It's like a
my
train.
system says, okay,
Yeah.
now we're eating. Let's make sure we get our
And
calories.
by the way, that's why I teach different modes of fasting, right? Pure water fasting, partial fasting is too fast.
Yeah.
I always say pure water fasting is so much easier for me because once I eat a little
agreed.
bit, the train just wants to go, right? It's like I have to pull back. So partial fasting is harder for me. Like having a little bit of taste, pure water, 2 days, I'm done. I don't even need food anymore.
Yeah. Once I start, it's like I have to eat.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But yeah, that's what I would say is a minimum 30 grams in a meal. And it depends on your activity level, your appetite, your calorie needs. But you're not going to overeat on protein, right? Make sure you're getting good, clean sources of protein. Where some people go wrong is like for me, I can eat high amounts of fat in a meal. My wife can't. She eats too much fat in a meal. She gets really bloated, right? And so for some people, depending on their bile flow, their gallbladder health, and usually women need a little bit less fat. Men can typically eat more fat and be real satiated.
You're one of the only people that I've heard do what I promote and teach is the diet variation, right? I mix it up. Some days I eat one meal. Some days I eat 3. You know, some days I eat 2, and then I even move in and out of low carb. You do that?
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. So when I think about like vegetables, fibers, things like that, I look at it like a spectrum. There's some people on the far left. These are people that thrive on little to no fiber. They're the carnivore diet.
Yeah.
And on the far right, you've got your plant-based people, right? And they're the super high fiber, people, and they seem to thrive. Okay.
My wife's more on this side. I'm more on this side.
Right. And there's a lot of people on one of these sides that actually don't thrive where they're at, but they're doing it because they've been told that's what they should.
Yeah.
Most of us are somewhere on this spectrum, right? And like you said, your wife is more tilted more towards plant-based, and my wife is as well. And then I'm definitely a lot more towards carnivore, right? I can do well on fairly low fiber. I do well with, some plant foods, but lower FODMAP, the different types of fibers that ferment in our system. So,
which typically some people, that's me. I get too bloated.
All your cruciferous vegetables.
Too many of those I don't do.
Exactly. So I do great with like arugula, cucumbers, right?
Me too. Yeah.
I love extra virgin olive. I love salads with like arugula, extra virgin olive oil, lemon, stuff like that. And I eat a lot of fruit. I do great on fruit, and I'm very active, and so I do a lot of fruit, especially in the summertime. The more sun I'm getting,
varying it up. I eat more fruit in the summer. That's part of my diet variation, right? And in the winter, I definitely tend towards keto, low carb. It's just easier. But yeah, so I believe that creates diversity. I believe people get stuck in the same darn 8 foods, and people go, I eat more than 8 foods. No, you don't. Typically, it's 8 foods that people eat, and they're doing the same diet all the time. And it's monocultures, and it pulls away from the diversity that we need. What's your feeling on? I mean, this is so popular right now. Lectins, phytates, oxalates.
Yeah.
Like, what's your feeling about that whole subject?
I think it needs to be personalized. I think that they are potentially hormetic stressors that can be overdosed.
That's what I say. Yeah, they
are.
are.
Just like exercise.
Yeah, you can do too much, and especially for some people.
So like I love to exercise, but I could easily overtrain. In fact, when we had our twins, I wasn't sleeping much at night, and I was still trying to train 6 days a week, totally overtrained, right? And so now I'm able to sleep well at night, 6 days a week, I can train well, right? And so when my gut was not healthy, lectins, oxalates, all that stuff flared it up. Now I can handle a certain amount of them.
Yeah, it applies to the hormetic principle, right? If you adapt to a stress, it's a positive. Those plant toxins can actually help your microbiome.
Absolutely.
But if you're all inflamed for other reasons, now it's too much stress. Can't handle them. But here's the problem, though. The world now thinks that they're bad. Right. It's not that they're bad. It's just if you're not adapting, they are bad. Right. It's like, so it's a little confusing.
Well, that's the challenge in our culture today, where everybody's getting their information 30-second clips.
Yeah, I know.
And everybody's trying to do like, buzzwords, right? And stuff like that. Like, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of people out there that are like, fasting raises cortisol, so it's bad. And they forget all about growth hormone.
Fasting is a stress. So is exercise.
Exactly.
If you adapt to the fasting stress, you get better. If you don't, not everyone can water fast. It might be too stressful. And this is a guy who's taught it for years.
Exactly.
Right? So we line on that.
So everybody's, it's easy to get clicks when you say oxalates are bad.
I know.
If you're eating, chocolate, right? If you're eating whatever, nuts, You are destroying your gut.
And the world loves that. They love to be like, this is bad, this is good. Chocolate, bad.
Yeah.
Alcohol, bad. We just had this conversation off the camera with someone. Is alcohol good or bad? They want you to say good or bad. I'm like, well, every healthy culture, every blue zone culture has some alcohol. Too much alcohol, bad.
Yeah.
A little bit could be good. It's a stress, and a little bit of stress can be actually good.
You gotta get the right dose.
Yeah, the right dose. But the right dose is different for you than me, though. That's
Yeah.
the problem, right?
Personalized dose.
Exactly.
I mean, the best nutrition plan is a personalized nutrition plan. So it's good to have the knowledge of, okay, this food is higher in oxalates. This is a little bit higher in lectins. This is a little higher in FODMAPs.
Maybe I'm tolerating it. Maybe I'm not.
Yeah, exactly. And kind of know where your threshold is.
Yep. But see, this is why I go back to, okay, why aren't you tolerating gluten, right? Gluten, modern day gluten's bad, but if your gut's not leaking, people, tolerate it, right?
Yeah.
Lectins, phytates, very similar conversation. So why aren't you tolerating it? This is a toxic conversation. Upstream, something's irritating the gut cells, the lining, affecting the mitochondria. You have too many bad guys, not enough good, right? Get to that, right? But that's a conversation even alternative medicine is kind of, I think, screwing up.
100%. I mean, it's people want a cookie cutter result. That's really the reason why. And so if you just follow this elimination diet.
Yeah. Tell me what to eat. Don't eat this, don't eat that. People love those diets. Tell me what's voodoo, stay away from it. And, that's what they want. Not, well, wait a minute, let's deal with the toxic overload upstream.
But the right strategies work on a number of different systems, right? Like fasting, for example. I mean, we know for sure, obviously it's a hormetic stressor that if you adapt to properly, you're going to get better. But it also has an effect on reducing toxic load, right? Because your body's going to now excrete toxins. Hopefully, you're hydrating well and doing other things, maybe taking a binder to help grab those toxins and escort them out of the body. But it's going to reduce your overall toxic.
On this topic, I have to ask this question. What beliefs have you had to assess, change, abandon to get to where you are today?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, I fell into a lot of these categories too. It was like, okay, this one strategy is going to work for everybody. Like when I first started working with probiotics, I mean, this is back, 2006, 2007.
We just need bacteria.
Yeah. And if you got a probiotic with like a diverse amount of strains, not just one, right? Like a whole bunch of strains, and they had to be, you had to have spore formers in there, right? Then that was going to work for everybody. And I saw a few people get better from it, and that was even worse because then I was like, it works. It works for everybody.
I think I fell into that for a bit too. So what do you think right now we're doing in this natural health space that we're going to look back and go, oh man, because we're doing something right now that 5 years from now we're going to go, yeah, that was a miss. What do you think it is?
Yeah, that's if I knew.
If I knew, I wouldn't even be sitting in this chair.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good question. Again, I think back to our conversation where people take everything to extremes. You know what I mean?
So what are we taking to an extreme right now?
There's a lot. Well, the oxalates, the lectins, all of those types of things. Even like the fasting conversation, right? So when it comes to cortisol and fasting, I look at something called the growth hormone to cortisol ratio. And it's you can get testing done on this, but you don't need to get blood testing done. If you feel good when you're fasting and you're not losing muscle and you just feel strong and you feel resilient and mentally clear, you're producing growth hormone. That's buffering the
it's doing that to
effects.
protect your muscle.
That's right. So growth hormone is your quintessential anti-aging hormone. So it's protecting your muscle tissue, your bone tissue. It's helping promote your immune system. So where the cortisol response to fasting becomes a problem is when you're not getting the growth hormone release. And that typically happens if you're overstressed or if you're very insulin resistant. Right? Because insulin is an antagonist to growth hormone. So as long as insulin's elevated, growth hormone stays down. But typically fasting is going to bring the insulin down and growth hormone will go up. But if you're fasting and you're drinking a lot of sweetened drinks, maybe, diet sodas or, even things with stevia, that could potentially increase your insulin to where you're not going to get growth hormone release.
Yeah.
Or for some people, they find out, hey, I can drink black coffee during my fast. So they drink a lot of black coffee.
Right.
And that overshoots their stress hormone, depletes their growth hormone.
Yeah, no doubt. One of the things that I find right now in the health space, right? People that they're fasting too much.
Yeah.
You can see them. Like
Mhm.
they're starting to look like long distance runners, right? It's like, so,
Right.
they're too catabolic. I find myself going around telling people the feast is as important as the fast. Remind your body it's not starving. You're fasting. Fasting is a stress. And if it's applied correctly, I love that. It's
Yep.
like, but yet I can't believe I'm reminding people that to feast. No.
I love
Yeah.
feasting and
Yeah,
fasting.
me too. Yeah. Most people out there are going, well, what do you mean I love
Yeah.
fasting? It's like, or, feasting is what we all want to do. No, but the fasting,
Yeah.
I love the health benefits of fasting.
Right.
But we all love to feast. However, in our world, we have people that are just eating one meal a day every day.
Yeah.
And that I do that periodically. But
Yeah.
if you do it every day, the body will think it's starving eventually.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point too. Like in the longevity space, there's an overemphasis on the mTOR pathway, which
Yeah.
is basically like a building pathway,
Yes.
right? Kind of goes hand in hand
It's
with
opposite of
insulin.
autophagy, meaning when you
Yeah.
fast, you stimulate the pathway
Yep.
of autophagy. Catabolic
Yep.
can be good.
Yeah.
Do too much of it, bad. Anabolic is mTOR.
Yep.
Bodybuilders love mTOR.
Exactly. So a bodybuilder lifestyle is about spiking mTOR. They want maximal growth in their body. So what are they doing? They're eating high protein, right? Every 3 hours, every 2 to 3 hours, all throughout the day. They wake up in the
High
middle.
calorie.
I've had some
high
bodybuilders told me they wake up. This one guy,
My son
would,
did this.
he would wake up at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
because he was afraid he was going to lose muscle
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My son did this.
and eat
Yeah.
a chicken breast.
My son led himself into obesity that way. My
Oh, my
youngest.
goodness.
Yeah, but he's
Yeah.
different now. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. No, so, but here's the thing though. Both pathways God created, they're both important.
Exactly.
Anti-agers hate mTOR because they'll say mTOR, it ages you prematurely, right? Well, they're right. If you're always in mTOR, the
Yep.
average age of a bodybuilder dies, I think, is 63 or
Yep.
64 years old. It's like, it does age you prematurely. But when you feast and you get mTOR stimulated, man, the joints can heal, things get
And
better.
you maintain your muscle mass. You build muscle.
Absolutely. It's an anabolic state.
We want to protect our muscle mass. Muscle
tough.
mass is expense. It's hard to build, right?
That's right.
I'm a lean guy.
Especially
I
the
work
older you
hard.
get.
Yeah, exactly. And sarcopenia,
Yeah.
loss of muscle mass, is a huge predictor for all-cause mortality and morbidity, right? So your chance of developing
Talk about
chronic
that.
disease
Yeah, exactly.
and dying early.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's very much related to the amount of muscle mass you're able to maintain. So you need mTOR to preserve that muscle mass. So you need to cycle back and forth between autophagy and mTOR. And a lot of people
Thank you.
a lot of these people in the longevity
Thank you.
space are they're doing low protein diet along with lots of fasting
Oh,
in order,
yeah.
because they're like, well, I don't want to
You can
elevate
see them.
mTOR.
They get sunken.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yep. They don't maintain their muscle mass. Their testosterone, if they're male, testosterone goes way down. Male or female, I mean, their libido is going to go way down. They're going to lose bone mass, muscle tissue. They're not going to age successfully.
Yeah. And by the way, new studies are showing, how you keep muscle is how good the brain works.
Absolutely.
Mitochondrial reasons. et
Yeah,
cetera.
there's these compounds, these proteins that come out of muscle, myokines,
Yeah.
that play a significant role with brain health.
Yeah.
And they drive up BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, which helps with preserving the neurons and the synapses, little gaps between the neurons, right? You need really good BDNF production to develop that synaptoplasticity. And I don't know if you know about the Einstein study. Do you know about that?
No.
So at Stanford, they looked at Einstein's brain.
Oh, no, I don't know about this.
They wanted to see what was different about Einstein's brain than
Mhm.
somebody else that was of his age and body size. And they
Wow.
thought, well, maybe the hypothesis was he had more neurons than somebody else. Like his brain was
Mhm.
heavier and more dense than the other person. And so when they looked at it, they found that it was roughly the same. Like it wasn't an amount of neurons or amount of protein in the brain. But what they found was he had twice as many synapses, these little gaps between the neurons that actually allow us for greater complexity of thought, greater connectivity of the whole brain. So greater amount of creativity, innovative thought.
So how do you get
right? That's a good question, right? So I don't know exactly what he was doing, but here's one thing that they did know about Einstein was that when he would think, he would pace. He would walk back and forth and pace. And sometimes he would close his eyes. And so when you are getting, I've never had this done, but when they're testing somebody for a DUI, they have them do a heel to toe walk because the cerebellum, which is called your little brain, in the back of your brain, connects to your cerebral cortex, connects everything, right? And that is the most sensitive area to alcohol. And so they're testing, how is your cerebellum functioning? When he's pacing back and forth, he's actually training, he's actually strengthening his cerebellum and ramping up neural pathways. So actually taking a walk and thinking, like if you're trying to solve problems in your business, if you're trying to solve problems in your relationships,
Take a walk.
Take a
But
walk.
don't close your eyes too long. You might walk off.
Yeah, exactly. But do some balance training from time to time too.
Yeah,
that can be
there
really
you go.
helpful.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he was born with more synapses. However, that said, obviously there's a lot of things we can avoid that get rid of synapse.
Yep.
Like too much alcohol.
Exactly.
Too many drugs, right? Lack of sleep, right?
For sure.
But we know that also keeping muscle on as we age really plays into positive. That's really good stuff, man. Really good stuff.
Well, that feast famine cycling is really the best thing for autophagy and for maintaining muscle mass.
Yep.
Right. That's the great thing. You can fast and actually preserve muscle mass, right? And actually feel great. In fact, I don't know if you know this, the Spartans, right? Like, did you ever watch the movie 300?
Oh yeah.
So that great movie, right?
Yeah.
And so the Spartans were known to work hard all day and feast in the evening and eat they probably eat 300 grams of protein, right?
Yeah.
In like one or two, like in a short period of time, they would eat a high amount of protein, but they found that they did their best work in a fasted state.
I find that for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I do. Yeah. I mean, feast famine, I've taught this principle for years. It's like, I think people need to hear it today more than ever, because obviously you have the group that is all feast, no famine. You need to famine. Go without
most
food.
of our society.
Yeah, that's most of our society. But then you have this other group, this new group that is like they need to feast, right?
Yeah.
Or even they're low carb too long,
right?
And the body will still think it's starving if they're low carb too long. And I think I brought this up on Mark's interview session, that if you just remind the body it's not starving once or twice a week, where you eat high healthy carbs, or you eat more meals that day, right?
Yeah.
A feast could be high carbs that you don't typically eat, right? A feast could be high protein, that you're like a bodybuilder, like a lot of protein that day, like the tribe who just gets the kill and eats 150 grams at sitting, 200. Or it could be high calorie, right? Any of those can basically activate that mTOR pathway. That's the build pathway.
Yep.
But again, if you stay there too long, that's not good either.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So it is this balance of feast and famine that people need to do. I think our ancestors did it. They were forced to do it.
Right.
Because we can go down the street and eat anywhere. We're not forced to do it. Right. So
we have to be intentional about it.
Catch me up just where you're at now. Like, what do you like? You're teaching some, you're kind of, showing up at a lot of seminars, podcasts, things like that. Are you still taking clients on? What's your main thing? What do you see for yourself?
Yeah. So, I used to see clients for about 12 years. I sold my practice about 5 years ago. And, now I just create content. So YouTube, podcast, blog articles. I'm a very visual learner.
You're great at creating content. You're great at writing, so you're really.
And I'm a really visual learner. So I love infographics. So we put out a lot of infographics on, all these different topics, feast, famine, cycling, all this kind of stuff, mTOR. We put out graphics on lots of these kinds of topics, because that's just the way that I've always learned, is in pictures. Even as I talk to you, when I'm talking about concepts, I'm actually seeing pictures in my head. Right. And so that's how I've always wanted to learn. And so,
you dyslexic? See, I'm dyslexic. I see that too. So, what, looking back, what are some of the hardest cases that you've ran into?
I mean, when you have advanced cancers, right? Things like that, really tough stuff. I've helped a lot of people with gut issues. The toughest cases are the advanced cancers, where there's, cachexia and things like that. And, I like to send them to Hope for Cancer, or, one of those types of clinics where they can do just around the clock, like integrative therapies. But, a lot of advanced gut cases, autoimmune types of cases, really going back to trying to restore the mitochondria. I mean, it's really like a lot of the things you talk about, right? The 5 R's, right?
Yeah.
It's really going back to the roadmap to help people get well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I know. Today, people violate so many of the things that create cell health.
Yeah.
They're creating the opposite. That's why my saying is you have to fix the cell to get well.
Yeah.
Mitochondria are part of the cell. This whole interview, if there's one thing that you want people to hear, take away, what would it be?
Your body was created to heal itself, right? And in chiropractic, I learned this term. Your body doesn't need any help, just no interference.
Yeah.
Okay. And as a chiropractor, I would work on trying to remove interference from the spine and nervous system. But as a functional nutritionist, I really focus on removing interference from the dietary stressors, right? As well as the toxins that people are ingesting every single day with the food they eat, the water they drink, with the what they're breathing in on a regular basis, things they're putting on their skin. We've got to do everything we can to remove those toxic sources and then allow the body to do what it was supposed to do. And so the things we talked about from a nutrition perspective, when we get our protein right, we get blood sugar stability. It allows us to go longer between meals. And that fasting period, we're just removing the interference and allowing the innate intelligence to go to work.
Couldn't agree more, man. I think that's what we got out of our education the best in our chiropractic education.
That philosophy.
Right? Absolutely. What do you think right now of the biohacking that's going on, right? I mean, it's very popular. Red lights, cold plunges, high heat, all of it. What's your take on all of it? Do you do some of it, none of it?
I do a good bit of it. My morning routine, I'm doing red and infrared light. I try to get in front of a double panel, one in the front, one in the back for about 10 minutes. And I do breath holds during that period of time. And I have worship music on, right? So I'm just worshiping. I try to get in my sauna. I try to get 100 minutes a week in my sauna if possible. Okay. And I have 4 young kids, right? And I try to help out as much as I can around the house. So it entails me getting up at 6 a.m. to try to get a lot of this stuff done. But I feel so much better when I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I don't have a cold plunge, but I'll turn my shower on cold. I think it all depends on your hormetic set point.
Yeah.
Right? Like you don't want to overwhelm your system.
It's true. All those things can be, they work based on stress.
Right.
So Mark Sisson, in my interview with him, he doesn't do red light. He believes strongly in the benefits of red light from the sun.
Yeah.
But he's suspicious of, just focus on, a couple channels of red light. So, I found that interesting. I feel him on that. I like a biohack, but I remind myself it's a biohack.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than full spectrum sun.
Right.
Isolating a few spectrum, it's a biohack, right? Meaning, a biohack could be good, but I don't know about every day sometimes,
Yeah, cycle it. I mean, and that's a great thing. You don't have to do these things every day, right? In fact, in a lot of cases, you shouldn't do them every day.
Cold plunges. He made the argument.
Yeah.
It works because if it's a great stress, your body thinks it's going to die, but that's the problem too. You can easily go over that board, especially if you're already stressed.
Yeah, exactly. So you really have to just have a good idea, good radar on what your stress bucket looks like right now.
That's what I say.
And not overwhelm your system.
Yep. Absolutely.
But all these things can be very helpful.
Yeah.
And they're great tools that you have in your tool belt.
Yep. Absolutely. You just have to respect them for the stress that they are, like fasting. Yep. That's what we said, right?
And nothing is a cure-all. Yeah. I think that's the other big thing.
Okay. That's
our society wants
the cure-all.
What is the one herb, right?
What's the one thing? What's the one diet? What's the one food?
Exactly.
Is this good or bad?
The one thing. If I just do this one thing, and the reality is, you just got to think about what our ancestors were exposed to and the kind of way that they lived. And in a sense, with our modern technology and our modern comforts, try to somewhat mimic it.
Yeah, I agree. Where can people find out more about
thanks again, Dan. Dr. Pompa is a great mentor of mine, great leader in the health space for sure.
Thank you.
And I'd be honored to just consider myself a prodigy, of his, right? A student of his. And so you can find me at drjockers.com, Dr. Jockers Functional Nutrition Podcast, and my YouTube as well, Dr. David Jockers.
Oh, man. Thank you for being here. Wow. Yeah, wealth of knowledge. Loved everything you taught today. Awesome, man. Thanks.
Thank you. Yep.
Yeah, another great show of the Dr. Pompa Podcast. Pain to purpose. You heard the story right there. So always, always, always look for your purpose in your pain. But remember what I always say, more important, pain to purpose to promise. I believe God has a promise in it somewhere, but we do have to ask. So awesome info, but you have to apply it. Start applying it, everything that you heard today. Share the episode and give it a lot of likes. You know why? There's so many people out here that need this gut information out there. There's a lot of people hurting with gut, and they're doing it the wrong way. You heard it the right way here. See you on the next episode.